Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi, everyone. It's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. First up, we're reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing Chapter 4. Um,
Previously on Wizard Team.
so Amari puts on these glasses, or she opened like the briefcase at the end of Chapter 2, and heard Quentin's voice, and then we find out that like she's in this wakeful dream. So her brother's there and shows her all these like cool things. So they find a flying boat on the roof of their house, and then take that flying boat off to see, what is it, like the International Railways of Atlantis.
hmm
And basically it's like this moment where like Quentin is just showing her like this whole new like
A whole new
world, I guess.
world.
Yes, thank you.
Don't you dare close your eyes. We
Um
also, though, I don't know if you wanted to go into that, but like Quentin lets her know about like what his actual job was and that there's magic in the world. This is why we're going to
mhm.
the Railways of Atlantis.
Yeah.
So,
And also like something happened to him. So we find out that she got this briefcase because he set it up so that if something were to happen to him, she would get it. And so it includes like this wakeful dream that's like, look at this new world. Also, something may or may not have happened to me. That sucks. And then also contains a nomination for the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations, which is where Quentin was and where like the job, whatever job he had, we're still not 100% sure what that is, but um whatever the job he had is what got him in the situation where he is like missing. And yeah, so we get there. Amari's like ready to find him, basically. Is like, okay, cool, like you gave me this information, now I'm gonna find you. um she's still holding on to the idea that he isn't dead. um and so yeah, now we have our mission.
yeah. I also think it's like important to note that Quentin can't tell her anything because he set this up way before. And so
Yeah.
it's really cool. Like I just like just to like geek out about the technology part about it again. It's really like cool because it's basically a hologram type of like visual message, but he is interacting with her and like answering the it's not I don't know why this is the only thing I think of is like Blink from Doctor Who, where she's listening to the video recording and he's answering the questions like as she's like
Hmm.
speaking to the television, and then you find out afterwards that like, oh, he answered those questions because she knew what she asked him, circular Doctor Who logic. This is more a very sophisticated kind of AI machine learning of Quentin, but he can only tell her what he already knows. So he can't like he's interacting with her in real time, or this like wakeful dream version of Quentin is interacting with her in real time, and like not giving canned answers, but answering like questions as she has them, but only like I guess like the can only answer kind of like with the knowledge of the Quentin of that time. So the Quentin that made
Yeah.
or set up this message. Um, I just think it's super cool. Like I hate robots. We know about how I feel about the robot takeover. But that is a thing about like machine learning that I think it's terrifying, but also really cool technology. Like I don't like it, but it's impressive.
Yeah. And
Like
if you think
it's
about it, this is magic. You don't like, yes, it's AI, but you can explain away or ignore that part of it because it's magic.
yeah. And I mean, and he's like explaining what he's showing her is magic, the railways of
Hmm.
Atlantis and stuff like that. But like the um and it's magical technology, but like the technology, it kind of exists of kind of dollhouse era, like download my brain
Mm,
and my knowledge into this computer, and I can interact with you as like my self, but only to a certain, I
like,
can't
up
tell
to the
you.
point that I did it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. It doesn't really take in like new information that Quentin knows. Also, and he says like you got sent this because I was either found dead, presumed dead, or missing for a certain amount of time, right? So it's kind of like I forget what it is, but like legally, if a person is missing after like 7 years, if you're not found, they like will presume that you're dead and then like or declare you deceased. So it seems like in this world too, there's like a missing threshold because he's been missing for like 18 months or something.
Mhm.
I forget the exact time frame, but like they hit this threshold so that this was sent to Amari. And I love that Amari is like, that's cute or whatever, but you're still alive. I know it. Let's go.
Like, I have a very
I
particular
love
set of
Amari.
skills. I don't know what they are yet, but I'm gonna use them to find Um, so yeah, chapter 4. So we come back and it's like the next morning, and Amari's mom knocks on the door so they can like have breakfast together. Um, she says like mother-daughter time or something. So it like goes right back to just like regular life. And so for a minute, like Amari's questioning, like, was that like did what just happened last night? Was that real? But she still has like all the stuff, right? Like she still has the briefcase, she still has the glasses, she has the weird suit, like she has all of those things. So there's enough
It was
evidence
real.
that she doesn't, yeah, that it was real. She doesn't have to be like walking around questioning herself. Um, and then she has a moment where she's trying to decide if she's gonna tell her mom what happened, um, which I think
I
is
love
interesting.
yeah, I love this part because she says like um how does she phrase it that he she her mom just got to the point where she stopped crying herself to sleep and she doesn't want
Mhm.
to give her false hope. Um doesn't want to get her hopes up. And I just like this idea that like we talked in I think the previous episode about how Quentin contributes to the family and takes care of them and also like the wider neighborhood and community. But like there are in these early chapters you get to see the ways in which this family, the Peters family, like they all take care of each other. And especially in this like very fraught emotional time, you see how Mama Peters is like caring for Amari, but this is a really good example of how Amari is kind of caring for her mom. And like, so they're all kind of aware of the emotional like trauma that each person is kind of going through. And then in trying to like shelter them or shield them from further harm or further, they start to keep secrets, which is like, but we've all done that. You've not told someone something because you didn't want to upset them, or like you, especially as kids. I think I used to do this a lot. Like I'll tell my parents after I figured it out. Like no need,
Right.
like not gonna really be able to like help me, and so in sharing this, it's just going to make them worried or stressed out with me. So let me and when you're confident that you're gonna get through it, which is like another thing about Amari I love, she's confident that she's going to find Quentin or going to get close to finding Quentin. Like you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet, but I know that once I've solved it, then I will share, but no need to like add burdens
Mhm.
unnecessarily. And I love that like a 12-year-old is kind of like thinking about that.
Yeah. I also think it's kind of like
the mom modeled it in a way, modeled like withholding stuff for others' protection. Like she goes and
Mm.
cries on her own in her room where she thinks that like maybe Amari isn't like witnessing it. Um, so I feel like there's a level of like I'm sure if there's like a psychologist or therapist listening to this podcast, they definitely be like I like there's a level of like as an adult you want like and just being a person wanting to have own your feelings to yourself and there's a like so that's a thing but at the same
Mhm.
time it's like but you need to have a better at a like a way of like working through emotions with kids so that they can see you grieving and grieve with you and y'all can work on grieving process together where they're not picking up this habit of oh I'm supposed to do have an emotion by myself because that's what it's modeled
Yeah.
for me is having the emotion by myself or whatever
Mhm.
so
Or
it's
to
like this
be
tenuous line.
that, like, I have to be strong for other people, which is
Yeah.
also crazy as you were talking, Portia, like, that is, like, the Black woman's thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, like,
Mhm.
Amari's also learning from her mother, these 2 Black women, like, I have to be a caretaker, and to be a caretaker, I have to, like you said, like, hide my emotions or, like, keep that as a solo experience because I have to perform strength and composure at all
Mm-hmm.
times so people who
Mhm.
are counting on me or leaning on me don't feel like they're like I can't handle, the burden or
Like I'm
whatever.
Yeah.
supposed to be a
Wow.
support arm for them and I
I
can't be a
mean,
support arm if
Jeez.
I'm falling apart.
yeah, and I mean, I
Jesus.
also like, first of all, we're getting a little too
Like
deep, a
a little
little
too
too
close to space.
real, just a little too real. I also did think though about like Quentin as well, in that like him being missing also forces Amari to grow up and to have to like consider these things, right? Because I feel like if she had a big brother if she had her big brother there, like these are not things she would really have to worry about. They would be able to shield those things from her as opposed to the other way around. Um, so because she sees the way her mom is struggling and she's like, okay, well, she's just starting to get back to not normal, but just like feeling better, it seems, and just like not wanting to go back, but also like taking the responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. It feels like something she learned from Quentin, and then it's like having to step into that role because he's no longer there. Um, so yeah.
I wonder, I I assume this, but I don't have like any what's it called? Like evidence to back it up, but I also wonder if there's something to like we know that they struggle like financially and stuff, and so that level of, like my parents have enough to worry about that all kids of a
Hmm.
certain financial background kind of have of like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask for this like everyone at school has like this super cool toy or whatever. I'm not even going to ask for that because they got enough to worry about. Um or just in general, you know what I mean? Like she had to come from work to take pick me up from school and like we saw in like chapter 1 that like Amari recognized that like that is added added stress. So I also
Yeah.
wonder about that aspect of not just that her mom is getting to a point where she's no longer crying in her room and stuff like that, but like she doesn't Amari recognizing that like Mama Peters doesn't really have the time or capacity to like take on a lot more because they are struggling just to make it,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Um,
layers.
so yeah, it's a whole lot. um, so yeah, so then Mama's like, I miss Quentin, and they're just having this conversation. It's like, I understand why you're going through it, but also I taught you not to put your hands on nobody, so you're grounded. So
Can I just say, ain't that about Black Mama? Like
literally,
Yes.
thinking like their home
she's
training, the
yeah,
home training that I
she's like,
tell
I
you to
feel
actually walk in the
you.
streets with. I
Literally,
tell you
she's
to walk on the
like,
streets like you act like you got some home training and you went
Right.
out there acting like I ain't taught you better.
And
hello.
Like
like,
that's
So it's
yeah,
it.
like it's
even if they
empathy,
deserve
but
it,
also
she's
like,
like, it's
okay,
2 layers.
yeah. And I just appreciate the way that her mom is able to like balance that. Um,
Mhm.
but like because it really is. It's like sometimes those things happen, and you're like, well, I mean, you weren't wrong, but I taught you not to do this, or you know what I mean. Like again, like you
There's
out
like other
here,
ways to resolve your conflict.
right, right.
I taught you to act like you got some home training, like
Mm-hmm.
somebody's mama worried about you, and look what you did.
Mm-hmm.
I just need you to continue to act like you know that you're gonna like what I taught you, which was
Exactly.
when you
You
out in
don't
these
put your hands
streets,
on nobody.
Yep.
we
I
need
also love and we
Um.
talked a little bit about like the different forms of violence, right? And like what those
Yeah.
kids did was also violent, even though it wasn't. I love, and I think that this is something that like Black kids, Black people learn constantly as well. Is like there are different forms of right and like there are nuances to right and wrong too, which is like
Mm-hmm.
I understand why you did this. I understand that you were provoked into doing this, but also you should not have crossed that line. So like
Mm-hmm.
you get the sense that like had Amari just like had Amari started a fight or actually been bullying people, right, without having like the justification, then it would be a completely different conversation and a completely different punishment. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is nuances to like not it's not just oh you push someone, right? Or
Right. It's like the
wait,
context
I understand.
that
Yeah,
happened.
there's like the context, and I understand the context, but also the pushing or putting your hands on someone is a line that you know not to cross, no matter the context.
Right.
So we're gonna have a different conversation and a different punishment, but we still gonna have a conversation and a punishment. Oh.
Yeah. So Amari is like, but then mom has to leave. So again, you're like, she has to work, so she has to. She's not. It's not like she's gonna be there to monitor Amari. Because she has to get there early. To fill in for someone else, and so she's like, "Don't let me find out you've been out that door." And then Amari goes, "Yes, ma'am." And Mama's like, "No, this is suspicious.
I
You
sense
only say yes,
fishy.
ma'am." Yeah. She's like, "You do not say yes, ma'am, unless you're up to
she's like,
something."
I know your tales, little girl.
Like,
That's
come on.
right.
And then it's so funny. Like,
I
Amari's
was born
hilarious
at
because she's
night, but
like,
not last night.
and so then Mama's like, I have Mrs. Walters, who's one of their neighbors, watching while I'm gone. So, don't don't let me find out. And then Amari is
Mhm.
like, I get it. And in her head, Mama said not to let her find out. That doesn't mean she can't go. And I'm like, these children, bro, like
Yeah, this is my
just
The
thing too.
hard
Like
headed.
semantic,
Just come on. Come on.
the
I love
semantic
it.
argument in a court of
I
law,
love it.
though, he is correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's
I
not
love it.
wrong.
I love the ability to follow the rule of the law, if not the letter. And I feel like to some extent, it's again, her mom isn't necessarily trying to like you were saying, was not punishing her. She didn't really do anything that was wild. She just did something that was like she needs to not do that again. Should she be in that situation again?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so to me, I feel like her mom was kind of giving her a little bit of an out because she did word it that way. Is don't let me find out. Because I feel like if your mom really was about it, it would have been more enforcement. It would have been a bit stricter than don't let me find out.
I mean,
I
I
don't
think
know.
so. We learned about this at my job, and this is just like a thing, and they talk about it too a lot in like fantasy writing, which is malicious compliance, where it is like following the letter of the law, um, and figuring out ways in which to make the law or whatever like work for you and against the the lawmaker. Which seems crazy that like Mama Peters is the lawmaker at this point. So and that's part of it, right? Is like to really like read for any loopholes or whatever. And so Amari found a loophole. I don't think that Mama Peters is like giving her an out. I think she's giving her what she thinks of as an easy punishment. Stay
Right.
in the house. You're
Yeah.
grounded. But like I'm not gonna be like, you can't do this, or you know what I mean? Like to me personally, I was thinking about this. Taking away the laptop stinks, right? But I just got to stay home. Sweet. I
Yeah,
can
I'd be like,
read, I can
say
watch
less.
TV, right? Like, I'm gonna make a hot
If
pocket
Amari didn't
and
have
watch Law
to,
and
if
Order.
Amari didn't have a very specific mission, like, this is fine.
Pretty easy grounding is what I'm saying. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like there are ways in which it could be like, when I get home, I want all of your chores done. I don't want to thing out. You need to do this, this. You know what I mean? Like, she could have
Mm-hmm.
left her a laundry list of like very like unpleasing tasks to do. So I think that she is like giving her an out in terms of I'm letting you off a little bit easier. Just stay in the house. Don't, you can't go gallivanting around the neighborhood with your friends. Stay in this apartment. And um Amari has a mission, like Bayana said.
Yeah.
So
She's like, any other situation, I maybe would
yeah,
stay. But okay, so let's keep going though, because it just gets like, it's just really funny. Like, imagine, like,
yeah,
we'll get there. So she goes back to her room. She pulls out everything from the briefcase. So this green and purple jacket,
this
or
suit.
suit, full suit. There are 2 sheets of paper that were inside an envelope, and then the shades from the Wakeful Dream. She tries on the shades because she keeps doing it just to see like if it'll still work, but they don't. So then we get this paperwork that is honestly like
Out of
it's so
pocket.
funny. It's super out of pocket, but it's really funny. So I'm gonna read it. Hilarious. So mandatory staple atop all outgoing paperwork. Warning, warning, in case you somehow missed the first one. Warning. Surely you get the idea by now. The following information is classified as it refers to a location that handles several million very well kept secrets. As a result, reading this file without the proper permissions may result in any number of dire consequences that include but are not limited to death by bottomless pit, being locked inside a metal canister and shot into space, being fed to a certain creature in a certain underwater lair that shall, for the purpose of keeping its existence a secret, remain nameless. So it's all like, I think for me, it's like, it's all so colloquial. Like,
Yeah.
this is official paperwork, but it doesn't read like,
Also, what
super
I
like,
read is if I found this and I took it seriously, I'd be like, oh, there's some magic going on.
literally is like, I would have questions. Maybe I wouldn't want to go find out the answers because clearly
Yeah.
I don't want any of these consequences to happen to me, but my brain would be like,
Sounds
how are
fishy.
you gonna
Maybe
shoot me into space?
magic and or aliens. Like, it would be one of the two.
Yeah.
I'd be like, the
Yeah.
government. I have found evidence of a governmental conspiracy
But I feel
of
like
aliens
as
and
like
or magic.
I feel like people who are like too like practical minded who would be like, oh, obviously this is just joke paper. Like, oh,
That's
obviously this
true.
is someone just like having a laugh, trying to see who will like go to this location and like like lead someone on a wild goose chase. Because like this couldn't possibly exist. This is just someone making stuff up to see who will like get pranked. Like it's a prank kind of paper.
Right. Yeah, I think it depends on the person for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know, because I'm
It's like
also like, I love that Porshèa is like a person who's based in reality would think this, and I was like, aliens. So, what we've learned
I
is
said
I
practical.
am not
Like
a
a
person
practical
based in.
person who sets themselves up to think that they are. Because honestly, the reality is we live on a rock that floats in space, and then we applied all these stupid human laws to random occurrences in life. So that's
So
reality,
aliens.
and that's already a mess. So
Yeah, true. Okay, so then it goes on and says, now then, should you happen across this paperwork by accident and wish to know how to avoid such consequences and will know if you've peaked, you are to do the following. Seal it up in an envelope, wrap that envelope in no fewer than 3 yellow blankets, preferably all the same shade, stuff it all in a box, tape that box shut, and mail it to the following address. None of your business, don't ask which street, New York, New York, 54321. Of course, if you have been deemed special and thus do have the proper permissions, please feel free to move on to the next page. And it's signed
I
C. Kretz, which I love.
love the idea
I only just got
that
because
if
I read
you
it out loud.
right. Also, see, it's like
oh
letter
wait,
C,
Letter C,
period.
period,
Kretz.
Kretz. And I did not, I just was reading it. You read it in your head, so you're not really
Mhm.
like, you're just like, okay, that's a name. But
Mhm.
that's hella funny.
get it until you pointed it out.
No, literally just
Um,
now. I didn't get it until just now.
I love also the idea of like putting that address in Google and then just finding a building because like there has to be a
Right.
building.
But at the same
It's
time,
written
like,
in it is written in a
No, but
legit
I
like
assume
at
I assume there's
address
somebody in the
form.
post office who, if they
yeah,
see
someone will
that,
intercept it.
is like, "Oh, I know what this is." You know what I mean? Like, they gotta have people planted around, or like,
Yeah.
I assume they have
People
people
someone will
planted in other
Somebody has to
places.
intercept it because that's not a real New York zip code. New York zip codes start with ones.
Mhm.
And
So
so there is no way. Someone would have to intercept that sucker.
okay, thanks
Yeah.
for ruining it. But that happens in general though. You can just so y'all know, in listener land, you can send letters to Santa Claus by just writing like Santa Claus North Pole, and then the postal workers know his address and they send it to him. And then the same with the White House. I don't think you need to actually have the White House's.
It's just Pennsylvania Avenue or whatever. You can look it
Yeah,
up
it
that
has a
and
real
yeah.
address, but I don't think that you actually need the White House's
To
address
write it
to be
all out.
correct. Yeah, and they will still route it correctly.
Hmm.
Like
Interesting.
I
if
wanted
you try to mail me something, you got to have my address and the zip code correct, or it will return to sender. But if you go
Right.
Joe Biden or President Joe Biden, the White House, DC,
They'll figure it out.
they'll be like, oh, I think I know where this is supposed to go, and they will send it out.
like it's gonna go through our anthrax check and everything
Right.
first.
Right.
It's gonna go to
But
the junk mail part of you know what I mean.
yeah.
But still,
Right.
it's gonna get there, like with all the fan mail and whatever.
Right.
There are certain addresses where, like Santa.
That's cool. I think for me, for this specific letter and like document, I just think that like the clandestine nature of it all makes the nomination feel like a privilege. Like she already knows that like
Mm.
Clinton's doing something that like he's already gotten a lot of like renown and awards for who is as a person. So whatever job he's doing is probably pretty prestigious. But the fact that like there's so much stuff in here that needs to be kept a secret already makes her feel even more like she's getting like this knowledge that is like just can't be shared with anyone, so she's kind of like having a privilege of seeing something that not a lot of people get to see, um which is great that like in a way like, oh, I have an opportunity that no one else gets, but also kind of like really messed up because not even her mom knows about it and she's already keeping a lot from her mom, and I wonder how it like weighs on her to notice she's keeping a lot of secrets and they're all related to Quentin from her mom.
Mhm.
What's funny is like I was thinking, and I agree with all of that, except for Amari feeling special or anything. Like I was kind of amazed that all of this magical stuff is happening, and the way that I read it, Amari is like, cool, whatever. How am I going to get? I'm going to use this to get to Quentin. Like these are all just
Mhm.
clues to get to Quentin, and like this is all interest. Like I think she does think like this is interesting, and this is crazy or whatever. But there's always moments in like magical fantasy books where like the main character is like, "Oh my god, magic! Like it exists!" and like, "Wow, like what adventure am I about to partake on?" And Amari has a very like,
One track
"Okay,
mind.
cool. This is
Hmm.
another clue to get me to find my brother."
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't think that, but
Which
I think she's again a practical person. So I think that to her, like we see when it gets real for her, and it's not here. Like this is just
Yeah.
yeah,
like not going to be the thing to hop up to her. So I'm with you, but I also think that the secret, like the Candace, like the how like underhanded and spy it is very like making her like it's already tying to a level of her already being like, oh, I'm good at keeping secrets kind of thing, like I can do this, I can be on top of the
Mhm.
secret, whatever. But yeah, to the final goal of like I'm keep the secret to find Quentin.
yeah.
Yeah. So then we get a nomination for consideration, which is on the second page. We found out that it can be used between the ages for anyone between the ages of 12 and 18. Because I think one of the things I had worried, or not worried, wondered about before was like, Quentin has this nomination, he's just kind of sitting on it. And like, it's not one of those things where it's like you have to be a specific age to join. It's like, or there's like a range. So we kind of find out like she'll be, when she gets there will be other people who are maybe older than her or younger than her that are in her same kind of like level, I guess is the word. Um so yeah, so like if Quentin had stayed cool, like she might not have got this for another like 3-4 years. Um and then she has to bring the nomination in person to somewhere in Atlanta, which is where they are. And upon arrival at the address, she has to enter the leftmost elevator alone. When the doors close, she has to press the basement button 26 times, and then await further instruction, which feels like a lot. And then she finds out that she has
The
to wear
worst
this
part.
suit. The worst part of this whole thing is she has to wear this
The-
suit to the interview. And Amari is like, okay, this like clearly he's lost his mind because she's gonna get there's no way she's about to leave this house and nobody's gonna comment on this green and purple suit. So she's like looking at it and she's just like, I can't really afford to, she says, I can't afford to get another fight with somebody who is like roasting her. And so it's like this whole thing where she kind of hesitates. And I love that like that's the thing that makes her go, okay, do I really want to do this?
I found this to be the best example of Amari being 12 because Amari at like 15, like in high school, is like, okay, wearing my regular clothes, getting as close to the spot as possible, finding a bathroom, and
Right.
then changing into this nonsense.
Changing.
Like,
That was my thing. I was like, you don't have to wear it
you
out the
don't
house.
gotta
Like,
go the whole trip.
She was like, I feel like she was like, look, that would be, I could do that, or I could try to do the most expeditious thing, because who knows what I have to do once I get there. Like, I got to get there and get and try to figure out whatever.
She can get there whenever, though. That's the other thing. Is like, it doesn't say, like, they don't know when she's going to get the nomination. She can just walk in. It's like a walk-in, there's no appointment. So it's just a walk-in situation. So she definitely had time to, like, she could have went into a McDonald's, changed the clothes, and maybe she would have to walk like a block, and it'd be like,
clowned by
yikes,
strangers that she's walking out of McDonald's. Like,
I mean, it
but
depends
that's
on where this
strangers,
is.
not in her neighborhood.
Not the folks that she literally knows and has to see every day.
Because 100% after the interview, when it's over, I'm not coming home in this.
And I know Atlanta has like a very like large Black population, but depending on where this is, she might, if it's some white folks, they'll just mind, they won't say nothing. You know what I mean? Like she's in a Black neighborhood and somebody is gonna say some shit about her walking out in a Barney suit. Like I hate that for her.
Right.
And I feel like I too would have a genuine moment of contemplation. Like, is it really this deep? Do I miss my brother this much? Right? Especially because he's the one making her do it. So like in her head, I'm like, do I actually want him back? Like, is it that serious?
Partially too, I'm wondering if she's like, is this fool actually missing, or is this a long
right
journey to get me in this goddamn suit? The minute I put on this suit, he's going, just kidding. Can't believe you took you so long to put on.
You get to the building and you're like, your brother's sitting there with a Polaroid, like
literally, and you're like, bro, you haven't been here in like a year. What the heck?
He's like, it's a long time, but it was worth it. Going on my Instagram.
Like, oh my god,
hate you so much.
It's like I didn't even miss you. You can go back and be missing. I don't care.
Wizard Team is brought to you by Black Nerds Create, a collective providing content through the lens of critical and creative fandom. If you want to support or partner with BNC on projects like Wizard Team, let's build. Find out how at blacknerdscreate.com/support.
So she's creeping down the stairs of the building, trying to like stay hidden because on top of the fact, so this is the part that is like hilarious to me, is that like she's somehow supposed to sneak out of the house that she's not supposed to leave
in the suit
in a really conspicuous suit.
Loud.
In this
Loud.
loud ass suit.
Loud.
How is this gonna work, my dear? So she's got the nomination in her jacket pocket. And she's like, okay, coast is clear. And then a bunch of kids run out, see her, and start laughing immediately because she looked ridiculous.
And they're all younger than her.
They're all younger than her, so they're just like, sis. Dang. And I know, and like little kids, bro, they're brutal. I know they are
brutal.
They do not care. And it's so much so that she forgets, literally.
Beyonce ain't got nothing on a 10-year-old. Because Aminata has broken my soul plenty of times.
She'll definitely just say some stuff, and you're like, yikes. But yeah, so it's so much so that she gets distracted, and then she doesn't even remember to hide from Mrs. Walters. So she's already got caught. Like, she's been out of the house in 3 minutes, and she's gotten caught.
The fact that Mrs. Walters peeped her and immediately went down to her notepad and was like,
Yeah, it's just like
1:52 p.m.
It's that gif of Ryan from The Office opening his notebook and just making a little check mark. Like, that's basically what she does. And now, and then Amari like keeps going, because at this point it's like, well, I'm out. Like, she's not gonna stop her. Mrs. Walters not gonna stop her from going, but she's definitely gonna snitch. So, yikes. So she gets to the bus stop, and now she has to sit at the bus stop and wait for the bus to come in this suit. And then she's gonna have to get on the bus. But anyway, so a car screeches up, and then there's a bunch of, so all the windows roll down at once, and then there's a bunch of boys around like 18 or 19, and one says, hey, little mama, you lost or something? I think the circus left last week. I'm just like, I really hate this for her, but it's really funny. And she's like mad, and they're like, where are the rest of the Skittles at? And so it's like a whole thing where she's just essentially like, it was gonna happen regardless. She knew what it was. It's not fun.
I think we also have to like really explain
Black community.
Black people love.
We don't take anything serious.
No.
We also never love to make fun of each other.
Yeah,
but
with love.
Yeah, especially fashion. Like, you can't
be caught out here looking crazy.
Yeah.
In a Black neighborhood.
Like, there's no way people are not going to say something. Whether you know them or not. Like, they're going to say something.
I don't even think we have the capacity
to not say something.
I was at Pete's. This was a white lady, which, whatever. But I was at Pete's this morning, looked up, and was immediately texted, like, this woman is out here in her Udi. We cannot mind our business.
No, not in that way.
To what you wearing in public. Like, it is not in our DNA to hold our tongue.
I don't want to take it there, but I kind of have to.
Give you the craziest look. If we're not going to say nothing, we still going to say
You're going to know that we're thinking it. Yeah.
And that's kind of like the thing about like having a poker face but not having a poker face sometimes. Like, sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. It just depends on what it is. But I don't want to take it there, but I kind of have to, for like the role that slavery has in this. And that like for a lot of Black folks, it's like you can't go out of the house looking any kind of way, because that was the kind of respectability of it all. Like, you can't, like, we knew that like they would use any reason to rope you into doing something. Like, they will take someone who's well, you dressed in like a vagabond, so we need to put you to work, and they will do whatever. Like, it doesn't take much, and that would be the reason. So I feel like there's the better you're dressed is the better you're prepared to be in these white spaces, et cetera, and the respectability of it all. But I do also think that like over time it evolved into like not only like the checking of you in that respectable way, but also just it became like just an overall way that we engage with like appearance in the culture.
I mean, I think
so like while it will keep you from like when you're going through puberty from like running around with musty arms and ashy elbows, it will also like reinforce like, oh, she shouldn't be wearing short skirts. Like, it's like this weird
it depends on the it's like a scale. And I think also like two things. One, something about kids. You said ashy elbows, and like something about kids and like not want to put on lotion. Is like really interesting to me. But like, I think it happened with my brother, and like I told my sister too because kids don't like to put on lotion, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm telling you right now to put lotion on, but your friends at school will tell you in a different way.
And there won't be any lotion there for you to put on.
Exactly. Then you're done, and then you're just at school, and you got to sit there and take the fact that your friends just told you that you need to put some lotion on. But also I think that like Abbott Elementary does a good job of this every time like Janine walks out in something crazy and Barbara like has to make a comment. It's like that where she's like, there's a moment, I don't remember what she was doing, but she was like looking like who shot John, just like she was just upset about it. Like it's just a thing, like we cannot not say something. Yeah, so it's just like it's so authentic and like genuine and hilarious.
I love it that it's like also diasporic, because I love when
Mhm.
I hear like Nigerians or Ghanaians like just like going in at each other or whatever about like, oh, like just like burning each other. I'm like, okay, this is hilarious. Like I'm just gonna sit on the sidelines and hear all these jokes because they're hilarious.
Yeah.
It is like I said, I think it's literally in the DNA of not like Black American, like Black
Just
people.
yeah.
Like we
People.
just
Yeah.
cannot help it. And the thing that is lower, there's like a Evelyn from the internet or Evelyn on the internet. Like she has this like
Mm.
amazing video about being how her biggest fear is being drugged by Black Twitter. And
Yeah.
one of the things she says is that like, and the jokes will be on point like that. And there is
Yeah.
nothing
Yes.
worse
Cuz
than
it's
being the
funny.
butt of a funny joke where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you got me, and I have to laugh because it's funny, but I
Right.
also know that I am laughing at my own expense. And so at 12 years old, those things are like
Monumental.
Like she's
monumental.
never going to forget
It
that.
will
She's never
break
going to forget that.
you. It'll
That's
break like
that's for
you will
life.
never make a decision to make the decision you made ever again. We'll never do it.
And there's so many
Never.
times, like, I remember, Portia, you might remember this. My hair was crazy, and I had to go to a work thing in New York, and I procrastinated, and I was like, well, now I have to figure this out because there's like different levels, right? So there's like, okay, I'm going to be in New York with a bunch of like people at work. They won't know. They don't know like if you go somewhere, right, and like if you're a dude and your hair is not lined, if your line is off or
Mhm.
whatever, you can
Amari
get away with
commented
that
on Quentin's hairline
on her brothers,
last
right? On
chapter.
Quentin's.
Like
And so Quentin
She
is
was like, that AI
probably
ain't hitting with the hairlines, bro. You got the wrong colors
right.
working on that hairline.
And so there's also this level of like this is good enough to get me, like, you know what I mean? Like
mhm.
one, like if I'm in a predominantly white space or whatever, like I am the worst at getting real lazy and lax because they just don't recognize the nuances that like a Black person will pick out. Like
Yeah.
your line has a little hit. I have never had
Little bump.
worse or heard funnier and worse jokes than when the line is almost perfect. It's worse than when the
Yeah.
thing is just messed up, because then they will
Yeah.
just pinpoint on this one little when it's almost right, right? And
Mhm.
so Amari knows leaving the house, like the levels, and we also get to see like from what are they? They were like in elementary. They're like when she first gets caught, they're like
Yeah, they're
young.
smaller
They're
kids.
they're smaller, and then we get to the kids who are old enough to be driving, right? So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
she gets this whole spectrum.
He's getting drugged.
Oh.
It's unfortunate, and it's Quentin's fault.
And she didn't even walk that far. She just walked out her door to the bus stop.
She
Man,
has not gone a block yet.
anywhere. Ugh,
Awful.
poor girl. Um, so the back door of the car opens up, and then her friend Jaden comes out and is like, "Y'all leave." He calls her his little buddy, which I feel like is adorable. So he tells
But
them to
they're the
leave.
same age.
Yeah,
He's
like
trying to
I think he's a
yeah.
yeah, they are. I think he might be a little
I
bit
think
older than her, but like
I think he's
they're
trying to appear older to the older kids. Like
that
he's like,
too.
He
yeah,
is.
y'all, leave my little buddy alone. It's like,
Even though
sir.
he's like also 12,
Yeah.
maybe 13. Um, And so then, of course, then the guys start roasting them about being boyfriend and girlfriend. So like, it's not gonna stop. Like,
It never does.
I appreciate Jaden for
You'll never do
trying,
anything.
but
Yeah.
it's just
No.
another thing to tease y'all about. So Jaden sits with her. They haven't really like talked in a while. He calls her Mari, which is very cute. So yeah, so then we have like they have this conversation. We kind of find out like Jaden is one of the kids that Quentin used to like tutor. So it's like it's a more like distilled example of the ways that like Quentin kind of like helped out and was like a pillar in their community. Um and so Jaden does ask about the suit.
I want to say that he did put a buffer after all that humiliation. He did say, "I love your hair."
Right.
I'm feeling your hair.
Yeah. He's like, I like your hair. He's like, let me
and then this.
Also, I need to know what's going on with this outfit, girl, because like what's going on?
What?
He's like, is this how the rich folks dress? Like what's going on? I know you going to that school, so like, is this what they do? And so she explains it's for an interview. But then says that she can't really explain it. So he's like, "Are you trying to get a summer job?" And she's like, "Yeah, kind of." So then Jaden turns serious, and like, so there are layers to this, and just going off of the suit part first, the funny part, and then we can get deeper. So he's like, he pulls out like a roll of 20s and is like, "If you need cash, I can get you some. I can give it to you to help you out." So on the funny side, he's like, "All right, you don't have to wear this suit. I can give you some money." You don't need that job.
I'm not gonna let you be out here.
You don't need this job that bad, my like,
it's not
come on.
He said it's not even a loan.
Just take it. I'm paying you back.
Just take it.
For like, y'all have had me back. Y'all have had my back. I'm trying to have yours because it's not gonna work.
We cannot have you out here.
It's reminding me of like 90 TV shows where they had like the kids, like high school kids, like get some like jobs, and then you had like to wear chickens on their heads or wear like, stupid like black and like white, blue, and red like hats or whatever, like clown colors and all this stuff or whatever. It reminds me of that.
Will Smith and the peacock.
Yes, exactly. And you're just like, you don't have to do this. It's okay.
You don't have to. Like, this is what they're paying you for.
This is all you like. This is all you got. Like,
not enough money. Not enough money in the world.
But on a more serious note, like Jaden just hopped out of a car with a bunch of kids who are at least 6 years older than him. He has this like huge wad of cash, and is offering it to her. And so we get a little bit of background on Jaden. We find out that he has had it worse than a lot of the kids who live in their like community, not really knowing where his mom was. So like having to really take care of himself, and like then Quentin and Amari kind of helping in their own way. So like Quentin is tutoring at the rec center. Amari is like, if I have half a candy bar, like you can have it, kind of thing. So like they look out for him as much as like 2 kids can look out for another kid.
4 kids, I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's so like having that context, she's like looking at him like, this is a lot. You know what I mean? She's concerned about like where he's getting this money from. She's like, those boys are into some bad stuff and like they're getting arrested and like, it's dangerous for Jaden to be hanging out with these boys and also walking around with this amount of like all this money.
I also like to go back to like earlier, like way earlier in the chapter when Amari's mom is leaving for work. She's like, I've got to get to work a little early today. One of the girls has a sick baby at home, right? So it's like we get the sense that for the Peters as a family unit, right? It is literally, we understand they don't have much, but they are the type of people that are going to sacrifice or give what they do have, right? So Mama Peters is always working, but she's going to go in earlier to help, someone else, right? So it's like, and Amari kind of says like, we don't have much, but we had Mama at home, right? Like we have like support. And so you get the sense that for the Peters, it is important to all, and it is like innate to give what you can. Um, and so Amari also, I think, I guess what we get with Jaden is like Amari and Quentin have a soft spot for Jaden, not just because of, what he's lacking, but the fact that he also, like, he doesn't even have a mama at home, right? So, like, to them, it's like,
Mhm.
you don't, like, none of us have in this neighborhood, like, none of us have a lot. We're not, we're all struggling here, but at least we do have, like, family and support and things like that. And so I think that that's also, like, an important thing where before Amari starts talking to him, it's like to let him know that, like, he does have people, right?
Mhm.
Like, they're still around. So
Right.
I just want to note that.
Cause then he also says, like, he's like, "You don't know anything about them, at least they care about me," which is, like, a moment where then Amari is kinda like, "Well, well, she says, "My brother cares." Um, and then she's like, "They want something from you, which is different from caring about you."
Caring about
Um,
you.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so you find out, like, he's kinda dropped out of school. Like, it's still left a little vague, because she says, like, "Tell me you didn't drop out of school," and he's like, "I gotta do what I gotta do." Um, and then he also goes into the fact that, like, there's no one really to help him study anymore because the tutors at the rec center don't, like, they're not understanding. They're very much trying to, like, it feels like to me the way that he's saying that, like, they're kinda patronizing and they're not explaining things in a way that, like, actually makes sense to him, and they're just kind of expecting him to know instead of, like, actually trying to meet him where he's at and make sure that he is getting what happens or, like, what he's supposed to learn. Um, so, again, it's like a moment where you find out, like, or where you just see more of, like, the hole that Quentin is left by being missing. Um, so yeah. So then Amari, like, leans closer to Jaden and is like, "So what if there's a way to get Quentin back? Would you go back to tutoring?" Um, and so basically she kind of, like, clues him in on the fact that she's, like, about to go try to find him and is essentially like, "Promise you don't do anything drastic or, like, mess up your future before I can get him back." Um, and yeah, so, like, it takes a minute. She gets on the bus because finally the bus is here. She don't have to sit there in this clown suit. Um, But, like, by the end, he, like, gives her a big smile and says, "Okay, Mari," which is very
Can I
adorable,
just
but also I just,
also
like,
point out
love.
that, like, I love that, but I also love how Amari phrases it. Like, don't do anything that'll mess up your, like, she's not saying,
Mhm.
like, stop hanging out with them or go back to, like, stop everything that you're doing
Go
and go
back to
back to
school
school.
and do
She's
the
like,
yeah.
there there are, when you think about, like, I think we're just supposed to assume he's now joined, like, a gang. There are
Mhm.
levels of, like, activity that kind of, from, like, running errands or notes or doing, like, looking out, watch outs or stuff like that, that especially as someone who is 12, 13, like, it's not great, right? But if he it's not irreversible, right? She's saying, like, stay keep your head down and stay as low as possible. You, like, do what you gotta. I'm not telling you to not have money or take care of yourself. Um, but don't do anything. Don't try to, like, make a name for yourself in this life that
Mhm.
you can't reverse from. And I think that that's really, like, smart in the sense of I'm
Like,
sure
she's
that
not being just
Jaden and, like, all of
judgmental.
these kids. Yeah, and she's not lecturing at him in a way that, like,
Mhm.
I'm sure that, like, a lot of these kids get lectured at, and it goes in one ear and out the other because, like, cool, you can tell me not to do these things, but then at the same time, like, how am I gonna eat? who's gonna look out for me, right? Like they're looking at very like short term kind of like gains and stuff like that. Um, but she's not judgmental. She's not, but she's also putting enough faith in his intelligence to like, I'm gonna trust you to know the line that will like that when you cross it, you can't come back from.
Mhm.
And I just think that that's like a really like I like the way that she phrased it. I think that's really cool. Like I don't know,
I think it's
example of
pretty
like
clear that she knows Jaden well. Like that's like part of
Mhm.
it, and I also think the other part of it, because I feel like the people who are prescriptive and being like, "Don't do this and don't do that," are people who don't take the time to get to know the people that they're talking to and
Yeah.
actually
right.
like talk to them in a way that would be useful to them. And I think the other way that she kind of like rounded out this was by invoking the memory of her brother, um, and saying that Quentin would be really disappointed if you were to like if he came back or whatever, or not even that if he came back, Quentin would be really disappointed. So whether he's gone for good or he's just missing and he comes back and learns about it, he'd be really disappointed to find out that he and someone who invested so much into you, you were no longer in the same place that he left you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
um and I think that also had some weight to Jaden of like not wanting to like insult Quentin's memory, like in all the like the way that he looked out for him whenever he was around.
And I get the sense too of Jaden, like Jaden's not really like about this life. Like he's doing what he
Mm-hmm.
needs to do, right? But
Yeah.
like if he had choices or if he had like his pick, he would be at the after school like right. So like
Mhm.
Quentin left and he kept going to the tutoring program after school, but it
Mm-hmm.
Right.
wasn't serving him and they didn't get him right. And so
Mhm.
he goes to the place where he feels like someone's caring about him because that's what he actually wants, not to like live this lifestyle or do whatever. Like he just wants to feel
Yeah.
cared for and like he matters to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so I think that as we meet Jaden, we get the sense that like this is a kid kind of like on the cusp and like
Mm-hmm.
is like doing what he needs, but it's not like he's reluctant, right? Like he just needs help to be in the best position he can be in, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think
Definitely.
that's another thing that's again goes to the thing of like knowing who you're talking to, because it's like people come in and they act like, oh, I'm saving you, I'm like I'm the last thing that this the last person that can save them, like I'm the last
Great white
hope
hope.
for this person.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, no, like there are several things going on here. Like everyone has their own ways that they're trying to like stay afloat, and maybe those things are just nope, those buoys have run out and they just like they're in a place where they just need another buoy, like they need something stronger than a buoy, they need to get out of the water, or you know what I mean. And like either you're gonna like be a part of their efforts of getting out of the water, or you're going to be something that's another false buoy or whatever. um and I think that's a lot, um like not only an educational system but just a lot of parts of the systems of things that is
Mhm.
something that keeps holding people back from the ability to move forward. And I think it's all by design, because the system is created to maintain a status quo that keeps people in a burden and keeps other people never feeling burdens. And this is just all working the way it's supposed to. And sadly, Jadens are the ones who get like stuck in that like burden place, holding burdens for stuff. And it's really sad that like I know that from how it's phrased, like Amari probably feels slightly responsible for not being there
Right.
once
Because
Quentin was
she's like
gone,
at
because
this
like
other school. Her, she like Quentin's gone, but she's also not really there. Like they haven't seen each other in a minute
in a
because
while
she's
since
across
Quentin
the
left.
yeah, because she's across the city, like at the
Yeah, and she
school.
was
And
saying that
she
like
says
in
something that is like super real to me, where she's
hmm
like, it's sad to say, but all of my friends started off as Quentin's friends. Like she doesn't really
yeah.
Mm.
this is like a part of Amari's personality where she's also like unsure and unclear of how to like keep and maintain these friendships in the neighborhood without Quentin. Like Quentin
Quentin,
is
yeah.
very essential to Amari's ties to the neighborhood as well. And I get the sense that that's kind of an Amari personality thing. Like we don't hear about her having like good friends at this school either. Like she seems like
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's why I love her and relate to her so much. She seems like a very like insular, I don't want to say lonely kid, but an alone kid who
Yeah.
Mhm.
then is able to like use her brother as a proxy or social kind of safety net,
Or he
social,
helped her, like, he knew
yeah,
that she's insular, and he took it upon
Mhm.
himself to make sure that she got to know the kids that he was tutoring or whatever, so she would
yeah.
have some kids that she was friendly with in the neighborhood.
And she probably needs to, she like warms up slowly, right? So it takes them
Mhm.
time for her to feel like, okay, Jaden's my friend. But
They're
like she
my
wouldn't have
friends
gotten to
too.
that. Yeah, she wouldn't have gotten to that point
Right.
without
Mhm.
Quentin. So
And it
yeah.
also is probably also part of the reason, like, we talked about, like, her kind of invoking Quentin's name, which I think was important in this moment, but there's also a moment where, like, so when he says, like, "At least these people care about me," she doesn't say, like, "I care about you." She says, "Quentin cares about
Mhm.
you," which can also be for other reasons too, because they're kids, but there are vibes.
Right.
Like, the boys were
Like
not wrong
The
when they
girl
were, like,
telling a
teasing
boy
her.
that I
Like,
care about you. Yeah.
especially at
mhm.
12, that's, like, doing a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there is also that layer too of just being like, we're cool, but that's still like it's not gonna hit the same. Um
Yeah.
Yeah.
as
And
if
Quentin's the one who
other
built
than
a
instead of
deeper
saying somebody who you
relationship
look
with
up
him.
to. Yeah. And who was like the first relationship that you had with like our family as well. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also like you're 12, so you caring about me only goes so far. Like,
Right. It's like, what's that
Like, I
gonna
can get you
do?
half this candy bar. I can get you half this candy bar. I can make you some
right.
sandwiches.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Whenever the guy
I
showed up
love
at
it.
her house, she was like,
I love a
I
good
will
I
warm
candy
up
got
a
a
hot
hot
bar.
pocket,
pocket.
sir.
I
I
got a
got
hot
hot
pocket in
I
the
pockets.
got hot
freezer.
pockets. I love a good candy bar like everybody else, but like at the end of the month, I'm gonna need more than a candy bar, Amari, and you were
hmm
12, so
Yeah. You can do about as much as I can.
right.
But yeah. So yeah, so now Amari's off on the bus in this suit,
To her
uh,
interview in
to
the
go to her
suit.
interview. Her and her
Of
suit
course,
are off
Bayana
to
is like in this suit. Suit is still in play.
It is. It's very much so still around. Okay, so who is the real MVP of this chapter? I think we all are unanimous in this one.
So what I did was I kept going through this chapter and being like, plus point for Amari, plus point for why I love her, 11 points
Mhm.
for Amari. Let me just give you a couple of the logic points for why I kept that I gave Amari throughout this chapter. The first was just because a lot of them were personal things for like why I love her. I love sleuths, and Amari's determination
Mm.
to figure out the mystery about where the heck Quentin is. Just love it. I just love it. She's like, I'm gonna get
Mhm.
to the bottom of this. I'm gonna entangle this. I'm gonna figure this out. Um, and when she like is thinking about like how it's like it's only fair to share that she knows that Quentin like there may be clues of him being alive. She wants to share them with her mother. And she even goes so far to like not only does she looking in the shades over and over again because she wants that comfort, but she also wants like evidence to show to her mom like, oh, Quentin's okay or whatever. And I feel like that like her values being like I want to maintain the fairness of it all, like it's only fair that I let my mom know that Quentin might still be around. um it's just like I love that she feels that way. I love that's how her brain works. um and I love her like whole like ability to like, I'm gonna follow the rules to an extent. And then when those older kids are making fun of her, I love that her feral like instinct to growl at them is, don't you have somewhere else to be? Like, why are you messing with a 12-year-old? I'm sitting on a
Like,
bench waiting for a bus. You got a
right.
Camaro. Why are you
Chase a
messing with
bag.
me? Like, goodbye.
Very much on some chase a bag, please.
And then everything with Jaden that we just talked about, that was my final plus point. But all of those were reasons why I was like, Amari's killing it this chapter.
Yeah.
I love Amari as a person, and she has
She's
to
such
be
a great
MVP for
character.
me.
Like
Yeah.
she's awesome.
This is an Amari fan
Yeah,
club because
pretty much.
same for pretty much the same reasons. I
Mhm.
also almost benched Amari. Um, and I wanted to let y'all know that she almost got benched because like put the suit on later. Like just, some creative thinking. It really
Yeah.
bothered me. It did. It really bothered me. Just some creative, just like
It's like
bring a
just
bag,
get a bag, put it on. You could sneak out with a hoodie, do a little
right?
Girl, trying to
roll
do
There's
under
like
like
in the
the
middle of the
multiple
summer.
reasons.
windowsill.
Right. There's multiple reasons why you should not be leaving the house in this suit. And then
She's
there
a
are ways in
baby
which you can
sleuth.
then I know,
She's a
she's a baby
baby
sleuth.
sleuth, so she's
But
still learning. She's still learning.
I just, as much as like, yes, all of the reasons why I love Amari, and she's definitely to me the clear MVP of this chapter. I also wanted the audience and y'all to know that
It was close.
like
It was a close call.
multitudes. She would have been the MVP, and she would have also been benched, if not for
Yeah.
the end of the chapter in conversations with Jaden. But it was close.
Yeah.
I really thought about it.
I too made Amari my MVP for all of those reasons. But I will say I didn't know who my MVP was, and I think at first until we had the conversation, and I think it's for the same reason as you, Robyn, because I was just like, like I wasn't gonna
It's not
bench her, but
MVP
I wasn't.
behavior.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't gonna bench her, but I definitely was like, should she be MVP? She didn't think this through. But no, she's definitely the MVP of this chapter. For benched, I tried to get as like close to a person as possible. So I said Jaden's tutors, but like looking at y'all's, like it's like a part of what both of y'all's benches are. But I was like, I want to try to get to like a person. So I said Jaden's tutors post Quentin just for like not having the empathy training, like just not being good tutors really, and not like finding a way to meet Jaden where he's at, or probably them other kids. Like he's probably not the only one who is like trying to, be tutored and figure out what it is they need to know and are not feeling um like valued or like heard or really taught in the space. So yeah.
um, I've made a decision. Not to bring up that stupid boy wizard, but early in our journey of Harry Potter, I think I said like it is kind of my goal to make sure that Snape loses the series. And I know that we're only in chapter 4, and that as we get more characters, we will be benching real humans. But I really want for institutional systems, I guess would be or like
Mm-hmm.
societal or oppressive systems, maybe that's like the overarching thing. I kind
Mhm.
of want them to lose. I know it's only
Mm,
chapter 4,
They need the L. They need the
but
they
L
I
for
do
want
need
them
that.
the
to like the
L.
overall series. I might want, like we have some more time. But yeah, so I benched in terms of like institutional systems. The exact system is like just non-existent social safety nets. I talk about like the ways in which social safety nets give people freedom a lot. Like whenever there are country wars or people are like, "Why is America this way?" or "Y'all don't have this thing," and I'm always like, "Well, because we have racism, and racism has made the idea of social safety nets untenable to the majority of Americans, right?" So things like if your mother is not able to take care of you, um, currently worst case scenario, you get put in a system, you get put in a foster care or whatever, because a lot of times because racism doesn't want to keep you within your familial unit or help your
Mm-hmm.
parent get to the point where they can take care of you, right? There's just like a lot of systems that we have seen fail Jaden in this moment. Like the tutors, like
Mm-hmm.
Bayana was talking about, like a part of that is a failure of the educational system. Not having like good after school programs or like places and outlets for vulnerable kids to go, so they end up, falling into gangs. Gangs, hell, exist because
Of a lack of, yeah.
communities needed
Yep.
resources and systems and things, and
Mm-hmm.
it is a well, they have been, and a lot of things have been made illegal to criminalize but like the foundation of gangs is to take care of the communities which they grow from. And so systemic failures throughout to make these things necessary and to make Jaden's everyday life the way that it is. So yeah, non-existent social safety nets.
For my benched, I chose institutional cracks. Like I said before, they exist for a reason. These are not like, oh, I feel like the narrative has been, and what initially got me started studying like institutional systems, systemic issues, was the concept of like, oh, like these are just being overlooked and we just need to like figure out ways to stopgap and like stop making the band-aid suggestions and just like revamp the system. But when you keep looking at it, it's like system designed to work this way, and these are all appearing because they don't care to repair those issues in the system. They would like them to continue to work that way. So for me, starting out, when you get the fact that like Amari's mom is forced to work these hours because she doesn't have a second person in the adult in the household making money, that is an institutional failure. That is a systemic failure. Like parents should be able to spend as much time as they want to with their kids, not because of them having to be part of a capital system and pay the bills to make sure their kids can live and eat and have a roof over their head. These are all housing issues. These are all food scalability issues. These are all issues that like do not have to be issues because there's enough abundance in the world. There's enough food in the world. There's enough housing in the world. There's enough everything, but it's just being like parsed out in such a way that only people who can make profit out of it get to control who has access to them and when they have access to them. So from Amari's mother to the coworker whose baby is sick to Jaden to all the things, they're just all these appearances of like them withholding the reins and of the ability for people to have their basic needs met, and be able to live the lives that they want to live freely and ably. And that's why I will continue to point out the systemic and institutional issues. I would love for them to win, but I also know we're going to have some nasty people who are upholding the institutions and the systems as we
Oh,
come
that's
up.
for us.
So yeah, but I think it all boils down to like the world can really be a better place. It's not even like a pie in the sky like idea concept. Like the world can literally just be a better place, but they don't want it to, and it's really sucky.
Every
Yep.
And I
time,
love that maybe Alston wrote it this way.
yeah, every time that Porshèa talks about institutional cracks, I get the Vinnie Thomas logistics.
You can't
So
because
you have
logistics
because of
from
okay, you want me to write down logistics? Yeah. So I agreed.
Yeah.
Just know though that when individual people start getting benched, a lot of them are the personifications of institutional cracks and
Oh,
systemic
100%.
failures.
I was gonna say like no spoilers, but it does like right now we're seeing a lot of the broader stuff, but then it does get a little more
The middle people
personal's not the
who
word,
are,
but like personal
yeah,
as in like there will be specific people.
their
Exactly.
faces to the
Yeah,
people
to
who
put to
were
the
doing or
yeah.
Yeah.
perpetrating these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
These large scale themes become they're avatars for these large scale themes that happen as we dive deeper.
Mhm. Yeah.
BB Austin, you terrible genius. Thank you guys so much for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapter 5.
Wizard Team is brought to you by Black Nerds Create. If you want to keep up with our other content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Twitter at BLKNerdsCreate. I'm at Yana Wrote It. Robyn's at Robyn_rambles, and Porshèa is at Porshèa. So like UH. You can follow us on Instagram at Black Nerds Create. And subscribe to our monthly magic newsletter if you haven't and aren't already subscribed. our Bay friend Deborah is doing our newsletter monthly, and it's great. So you can subscribe by going to our website, and don't forget to rate and review. We're back, new podcast. Well, same podcast, new book, so new reviews, hopefully. And yeah, that's it. Bye.
Yep.
Bye, y'all.